Hello, it's time for a build guide update. Well, not really a build guide, but a build update, and the update is big, pun intended, because let me show you something real quick. That is substantially sized AoE, okay? I don't think I've ever seen any skill that big, but yeah, that's Blade Blast of Unloading. We can push it even further, but that comes later. I needs to do some upgrades for that. It's expensive. Basically, to push beyond this point is just cracked amount of money. But it's possible to reach like 13 and plus radius, which is crazy. We're already covering like 1.5 screens away, and it's already very, very comfortable to play. It's like, it just brings me joy to play this. But before we talk about all those cracked giga upgrades that I have for my current setup, I have some things to mention, to talk about some changes and additions for any variant, right? Because I went through 3 iterations of the build right now. Basically, it's like 3 different timeless jewels, so 3 different setups based on that. And I want to talk about something that you can maybe change, add, or remove from your build. So, okay, the first thing is very simple. Reservation Runegraft drop if no mana issues, or if you have such mana issues that you have to unreserve every time anyway. So I'm saving a point right here because, okay, so what's the difference? Well, we get a little bit less mana unreserved, which if you have less investment into mana recoup, less mana cost and stuff like that, that could be a detriment that is not good. You know, like maybe you need this reservation and then it's fine. Without the reservation, the loop either stops or because you run out of mana, or it just takes a longer time, an uncomfortable amount of time to start looping properly. For me, it's fine. It loops totally fine because I have basically everything that you can get for mana cost and recoup and stuff. Well, not everything, because I don't have the recoup mastery, but aside from that, yeah, pretty much. So I'm just saving a point there, and maybe you can too, because the main thing that I was going for was to just get proper life reservation, to not, reserve more than I need. So I was going for level 3 clarity, but now I'm just going for level 1 clarity with Herald of Ash in 21 arrogance. Well, this is to reserve less. It's 1% less than level 20. But yeah, just level 1 clarity, just for the Watcher's Eye, just for the juice from it. You still want to go for all of that recoup and minus mana cost. So nothing changes there, except for, well, we have a little like 40 or 50% flat life less, which doesn't really matter for damage over time. And for hits, well, it's also relevant because ward, right? Yeah. Well, it is relevant a little bit, a tiny bit. So again, as I said, like technically it's better to have that reservation and use a higher level clarity to get to that min-maxed breakpoint of half life to go on low life. But yep, this is like 45 unreserved instead of 48 or 49. That's a minuscule difference. So that's better because it saves a point. Let's move on. The next thing is Cooldown Runegraft. That's a big one, actually. So thank you to Najazu that pointed this out to me, that it could be good, because this is a new Runegraft of Time. It has a 20% chance for skills to not consume a cooldown on use. So all the skills that we put in Cast on Board Break, they inherit 1 second cooldown if they didn't have any, or if they already had something, like for example a Stone Golem, it has a 6-second cooldown. Well, when it triggers, it has a chance to not consume the cooldown, which means that it can be triggered instantly again, right? But that also works for Ward Shatter from the Ascendancy. It is also a skill, and I can show you clearly right here. If we look at the toolbar and I activate my Forbidden Right, my loop with Forbidden Right, because I changed the jewel, so now I need to do Forbidden Right, but I'll talk about that. So as you can see, if the skills are active and they're not consuming the cooldown, or like they don't have the animation, like you can see on the skeletons, maybe. I'm procking so fast. Yeah, but see, like sometimes they don't proc incredibly fast because they're procking even faster. You can see the Ward Shatter as well. Like it's procking, stopping, procking, stopping. It's not that it's not procking, it's that it's not consuming the cooldown, so it's procking every server tick instead of procking every 0.13 seconds. Okay? So this Runegraft is basically 20% more damage. It's just that. And it's also just better for everything. If I show the loop, so we can clearly see one thing. Normally I'm at constant 10 Blade Vortex stacks, but when we get lucky and we spawn more minions, because we don't consume the cooldown, you can see here, for example, so normally you should always be at 4 skeletons, but when you get lucky, you don't consume and you spawn another 4. And this means that we take more damage in quick succession, which means that we proc more cast on damage taken procs, triggers, and that means that we consume more Blade Vortex stacks. And you can see the pulses as well, like they're pulsing normally, and then sometimes it's just going to be boom, 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 one after another. And it is just great. It's good for damage, yes. Here you see like 3 waves in a row. Yeah. So that's how that Runegraft works. It's quite good. It's quite impactful. It's quite nice. But it is introducing that little bit of jank, a little bit of inconsistency. But it's not jank. I wouldn't call it jank, actually. It's juice, okay? It's just good. You do it, it's juice. But might need to play around a little bit, like reducing the total damage taken, maybe dropping the quality. Depends on the setup. Depends on the setup. For my setup, I just need to increase the damage taken as much as I can, and I will talk about that in a moment. Let's focus on the things that I have for all the variants. So, Withering Step imbued with Swift Affliction. Right, so my initial plans and the thing that I was recommending was a very narrow-minded, short-sighted scenario. I was talking about summon skeletons. I had Swift Affliction linked to summon skeletons in a forlink, and to remove that link I have to add it to the summon skeletons, but I don't, because if I do that, that means that we can only use level 20 skeletons, but we need level 21 for the +1 summon, to summon 4 instead of 3 to take more damage for cast on damage taken. To still get the 4 summons, I would have to get a helmet with +2 duration or +2 minion. But we don't need that if we just do a Withering Step. Withering Step is also very easy to replicate if it doesn't exist. We can use the Coin of Skill, I believe it's called, for the green supports. You just slam it 3 times on average, right? 1 in 3. It's a lot better than 1 in 27 that I was trying to do on the skeletons, which I failed. So I never even got it. But I did get a Summon Stone Golem that had Swift Affliction on it. But again, replicating is like 1 in 29 or 25. It's a lot of money for saving a socket, so it's still kind of worth, but it's annoying. But now you can just do level 20 Withering Step. You lose 2% effective elusive. It's not even like 1 movement speed. It's fine. It's fine, right? Like you just do level 1 Swift Affliction, 1 in 3 on the Summon Skellies. That means that you can do the helmet with +2 AOE gems. You can put your Blade Blast of Unloading there. You get more damage, more goodness, build better. All right, move on to the next thing, Unnatural Instinct and Duration Fix. Yeah, so this one is not for everyone, but it is for some setups. So if we look at my POB, by the way, the POB got the big update as well. I now have all 3 setups that I've gone through documented, and you can follow or take inspiration and adjust your setup accordingly. But yeah, so the initial setup was this. This is what the build guide was made for. This was the jewel that I self-farmed myself, and it's not that bad, but it's quite inefficient because it requires me to use a Thread of Hope, which gives me negative resistances, which means that capping resistances is harder. It also requires more points spent because I need to pick up those for the iron flask, well, for regenerative runes. But that was the initial setup, and it's fine. It works. It's great. It's fine. This is the default. This is how the build was born. Then it matured a bit, okay? I bought a 60 div jewel that allowed me to drop that Thread of Hope and have a more efficient setup here. I get regenerative runes on that one, and this one. And then also I was lucky to get etched runes here, which is the best. Ward scaling. This is 2000 ward for 1 node. It's incredible. Sadly, I don't have that for my current setup, but what can you do? But yeah, so I was going for that. And for this setup, now that you don't need the Thread of Hope, which means that we can do Unnatural Instinct here. And Unnatural Instinct here is so juicy. Like, I can't even. Like, this was already just doing the Light of Meaning plus Foulborn Mind of the Meek with 100% effect and taking these AoE nodes and some travel nodes. This was already, you know, like, so efficient, so worth doing. But now it's insane because now all of these nodes. Okay, so all of these nodes. Well, okay, these nodes. All of these nodes, we get their juice. We get their movement speed. We get the energy shield on all of them. We get movement speed. We get damage. We get strength. We get more strength, more damage. We get attack block. We get dexterity, resistances, right? We get strength. We get dex. But we also pick up 2 10% skill effect durations and 2 5% reduced, which means that breaks the skeleton duration setup. We get a total of 10% increased from this, which means that we need to compensate for that. So one option would be to go and grab a 5-point jewel here, or well, technically here or here, like anywhere. Grab another jewel socket and put another 2 dust jewel with a perfect min roll of 10% reduced. And that solves the problem, but it's a lot of points. It's a jewel socket. It's mainly a lot of points. It's whatever. It's cheap. But the superior option is to actually just path here. This is 10% reduced skill effect duration right here. And it also gives you another mastery that you can change into something. Although now that we're not doing the reservation, you could technically just do this over there. But yeah, 3 points for 10% instead of 5 points. That's a lot better. So this was basically the Unnatural Instinct swap. And then in my current setup, that's still the case. Then this is also quite important. This is basically budget restrictions for some people that can't afford everything. Like, you can't just spend hundreds upon hundreds of divines on all the pieces. So the ideal scenario is you get a tier 1 perfect roll 66 charge recovery mod on a level 84 flask. But as you probably know, those flasks are stupidly expensive. I saw, like, yesterday, they were again like 60 divines. So they're fluctuating between 40 and 60 divines, which is absurd. But you can live with a level 83 or lower. I don't know. I don't remember what exact level you need, but level 83 is the same as level 77. But so the higher the better still for other rolls. But yeah, you can buy a 6 divine one and roll it with tier 2 perfect roll. And I can show you real quick here. Shout out to Alti again. He made this, helped me understand it, and explained. Well, I mean, it's nothing complicated here. It's just he made this. I don't know how to use this properly, but I saw, I watched. I kind of know. I don't, but I do. I wouldn't be able to replicate it, but I know how it works. But basically, okay, let's not yap too much. So this is the number of increased charge recovery rate. Well, no, not rate. Actually, it's not rate. Increased charge recovery on the flask. This is the roll. So with tier 1, yeah, with 4 regenerative runes, with 10% reduced flash charges used, anoint or node, you click on this node and it tells you that you need a 2.71 multiplier, which means that we need 171.084. You need to round up, so that's what we need. 172% increased flash charges gained. This is the, like, basically the optimum setup. Highest investment on the flask to not need as many point investment into flash charges gain. But it is definitely possible to do 1.6, which is a perfect roll on tier 2. I mean, technically it can be even 59 for a non-perfect tier 2. But obviously the flash charge requirement goes up. So at a perfect roll, just for the sake of example, if you can get that, like, you know, you can save a lot of money by not getting a tier 2, so surely you can at least get this. You need 10% increased flash charges gained more than the optimum setup. So in some cases, it is not hard. In other cases, it is hard. So for example, in my first jewel iteration, I had a jewel that had a 2-pointer for 10% increased flash charges gained. So if you have an option like that, you could, you know, save a lot of money for starting the build and not waste that much on the flask. But ideally, you don't want to be spending points. Points are very precious, very valuable across all setups, especially the right side, the one that I'm going for right now. But yeah. And then the large clusters, this is something that I'm doing in the current setup, but this is also something that you could do in the other setups. It's just basically a money sink. Well, money sink. It's an investment to get more damage. So what I'm doing is I'm fracturing Sadist on an elemental damage, fire damage, cold damage. Like I honestly, okay, I had such shit RNG with fractures that I just bought this fractured. It was like 5 divines for one, 6 divines for the other one. And then you roll that base into a physical base with the refracting fog. And then you reforge the fence. It is not guaranteed that it will hit battle hardened, but it's the only notable that, well, I believe it's the only notable that works for this specific notable combination, so that my damage link is in the front, the best node, the force multiplier, and then the shitter one is in the back. And it's also something that you can target, harvest, reforge. So the way that you do it, yeah, you fracture the Sadist, you roll into Fizz base, you reforge the fence, Exile slam, and eventually hit. It's not that hard to hit. It takes a little while, but it's not that hard to hit. The problem is getting good suffixes, like getting specific and high tier suffixes. That is the problem. I settled on like low tier all attributes on both of mine, but eventually I can, I suppose, recraft them or craft better ones again. So that's something that I wanted to mention. I do 2 of them. And why do I not do 3 of them? Well, it's quite important to have hits have 50 chance to ignore enemy fizz damage reduction, because well, this paired with the glove implicit, we get to 92. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could push this, I believe, to 50, but we don't really need to. But it is good because there's a map mod that gives you fizz damage reduction, and then if you're doing increased map mod effect, that gets scaled by a lot, and 1/3 of our damage, well, ish, is physical damage. So that gets cut by quite a bit, and we don't want to get cut by quite a bit. Also, like, bosses have, I mean, this POB is, I was trying to simulate how impactful that is. I mean, it doesn't really change anything for us because we have all the ignore, but yeah, you want that. It's good. In some cases, amazing. In some cases, just meh, not that mandatory, but overall, it's a worthy package, or a worthy thing to have. So yeah, those are the things that should affect all setups. And now let's move on to the Giga upgrades, the good juice that I'm going for, that I'm unlocking the build into greatness. How I'm getting all the AOE, and the main thing is safeness, honestly. Well, no, the main thing is AOE. And then the AOE is part of the safeness, actually, not gonna lie. But the main thing is Vorana. I got a different jewel. As you can see, it is an incredible jewel seed, where I spend 1 point for 3 of those, and then only 3 points through attribute nodes, which we want anyway, to get my last regenerative rune. So this is 917, the line of Vorana. You don't need the Vorana, but Vorana is incredible. It gives me basically 90 evade, 90 fizz damage reduction, but that comes at a cost as well. It's not just good for my setup, because normally, right, if you're not doing a cast on damage taken, if you're doing just full ward break, it doesn't matter, right? The fizz damage reduction is just a benefit. It's just good. But for me, I need to take a lot of physical damage to proc my Blade Blast of Unloading in cast on damage taken decently frequent. I cannot put it in a ward break because it would just trigger too fast, and we will never have AoE because it will instantly remove all the Blade Vortex stacks. And we need to be able to generate more than we spend. And that's how we get all those big expansions. As you can see, my summon skeletons is 2120. and I know that people will ask, not all of them, but some people will ask, so I need to address this because this is technically a part that does matter. So the quality does matter. You do want the quality because it gives you +1 maximum summon skeletons. So why does that matter? With the Runegraft, that sometimes we go over the 4 summon skeletons, we want to be able to summon more of them to take more damage. So if you don't have the quality, the second cast will only get you 3 more instead of 4 more. It's fine, but you want it. You don't need it, but you want it. You really want it. Like, really want it, okay? Is it expensive? 7 chaos. Yeah, okay, you need it. Okay, you need it. There's no excuse. You need it. You need the quality and level 21. All right. And the thing, right, so how do I solve the slow cast damage taken? Because if you take the Vorana, as you can see, my proc rate, trigger rate of Blade Blast is not slow at all. There's a little bit of tech, which is very simple, very nice, very cool. Physical damage from hits taken as chaos damage. We don't need to do any Forbidden Rite nonsense. We just add this. It technically works as well at a lesser modifier. It gives you 10%, but obviously the more the better because faster triggers is better. We can still go a bit faster if possible, but that would require me to go into negative chaos res, which I don't really want to do. I believe that being at a sweet spot of 0 is, you know, between tank and proc rate. So for damage, so damage, safety, tankiness, sweet spot, I think is 0 because it's still frequently proccing fast enough, frequently enough, and we're not really breaking the build for just proccing a bit faster. Okay, so this is just simple tech, right? It's simple tech, but it is that. I'm getting 60 positive chaos res to go to 0 by getting this on the gloves, 35 with tier 1 chaos res, and then crafted. And then I also have 2 cluster jewels, which we'll talk in a bit. I have tier 1 chaos resistance on 2 of them. That's how we fix the slow cast damage taken. And since I'm no longer doing the Celestial Mathematics, I believe it's called, the keystone that allows you to break your ward with an attack, I now need to use Forbidden Rite instead of Frenzy. But yeah, it's very simple. I still don't need to weapon swap. And technically, yeah, people are saying, well, just go into a map, walk up to a pack of monsters, they will hit you, it will start, so you don't even have to weapon swap if you don't want to. Yes, but if you activate your loop, that means that all your recovery, your tank, your damage, everything is going. There is no random thing that can, by accident, kill you because you stepped on a damage over time effect before you had your minions out proccing your life recovery, you know? So I still prefer this, and I'm keeping it. This is comfortable. This is very nice. But yeah. And then, yeah, my current setup. Let's talk about that a little bit. So this jewel that I got, I was looking how to transition into the right side because the right side is the superior side. Why? Well, we're anointing Careful Conservationalist. We need this. This is very impactful. So we don't need to anoint it anymore. But also, we get more flash charges gained here. If you really need to, you can get 10% here as well. Well, if you're traveling here. But the main thing is, you get these efficient points, very impactful points for the build, and you don't need to anoint it. That means that we can anoint something else. And we can anoint the hidden anoint on the Witch, Tranquility. The Transfiguration of Soul basically gives us double dipping, not really, but like it double dips in terms of we're scaling ward for Ward Shatter, so that means that we're not really scaling Blade Blast of unloading damage that much while we're scaling Ward Shatter with like increased ward, increased energy shield. But this now translates into more increased spell damage at 30% of the value, and we have a lot of increased from this setup. We get a lot, like a lot. So this, I believe, gives me around like 90%. If we quickly check Blade Blast of unloading, all types. Yeah, 91% spell damage from Transfiguration of Soul. That's incredibly good, and also gives me more ward. It's just amazing. For this build, it's incredibly nice. And then also, because we get increased flash charges gained here, this is basically every single point here is equivalent to a notable on a cluster jewel, right? This is a brute for potency, which we had in the earlier setup. If we look at the cluster, where we're doing fasting, well, I had a few of those, but yeah, brute for potency, fasting and brute for potency. This is the 10%. So technically, every point leading towards that anoint that we are anointing and no longer anointing in the current setup, that means that every point here is assert dominance. This is 25 AOE, 25 AOE. Okay, so that's why we want to go for this. This is it's good. I think you understand the point why it's good. It allows me to go for maximum AOE, maximum damage, maximum efficiency, as close as it gets to a perfect build is the right side option. And then, so yeah, the AOE. The first thing is clusters. This is not too complicated, but we are going for clusters like that. Now that we can change the bases, it's quite cool what we can achieve. But you can see that my suffixes are basically all tier 1s of something. We're getting stats, resistances, basically whatever you need, and 2 jewels with gas res just to get to 0. But the idea is you roll AoE or area damage jewels until you hit assert dominance, fracture. My RNG on that, oh my god, I hit like 3 in 20 fractures. It was crazy. But yeah, you hit that and then you roll with refracting fog into either life and mana flask or flask duration cluster base, and then you reforge speed, which guarantees either fasting or spike concoction. You want one of those, only one of those, and everything else has to be fasting. But you roll that, so every reforge speed guarantees a notable, which means that you already have assert dominance plus fasting. So now you're only looking for tier 1 suffixes. So a lot of Exile annulling to try to get what you want. But this is kind of a puzzle that, you know, every setup will be getting probably slightly different things. And also, if you get more intelligence, you can tattoo more nodes into ward. If you get more dexterity, like for example this one, it has 8 intelligence for all attributes. If this was for all attributes and dexterity, I would not be tattooing this node. I would be tattooing this node into, let's say, movement speed or avoid stun. I'm going for avoid stun right now on all of these tattoos until I can fix it through other means. And then once I can do that, I can tattoo all of these into movement speed. Every point is 2%. It's not that much, but it's honest work. You know, it's good. Ideally, you want that. I want that at least. So that covers the clusters. Now the body armor. Oof, I crafted that bad boy, and I'm happy. I'm happy. Look at that juicer. Shout out to the person in my YouTube comments that basically planted a seed in my mind about reduced attribute requirements on the suffix. Like 99.9% of the time, it's a meme stat. But in this build, in this setup, this is equal to tier 1 strength, 56 strength. It's like 20 plus something dexterity, which translates into avoid stun or movement speed. And also, the alternative, if you don't get this, I was getting a different enchant. Instead of 8% defense, you go for 6% defense with reduced attribute requirements. First of all, that could take a lot of divines just to try to get that non-basic modifier enchant, if that makes sense. Like the base ones that are giving you just like the base value and no additional effects, they are more common. So trying to roll for the defense with additional, like the one specific mod, it's gonna be harder. So more divines, more cost, and everything like that. But it also gives less ward than 8%. So that suffix is also giving us hundreds of ward. It's amazing. It's so good. But the main thing is AOE, as you can see. Of the essence, 25% AOE. I also got a 30% base. Those are mad expensive. So, well, actually, mad expensive is these gloves with high quality. That shit is crazy. But yeah, 30%, 30%, which means that I really wanted to be very careful. So I went with a very careful recombination, playing with non-natural native modifiers, or rather non-native natural modifiers. I recombed a triple tier 1 prefix onto this base. I lost one, and then I won on the other one. And then once I had triple tier 1 prefixes, I just Eldritch Exalt Annul until I hit a tier 1 mod that I don't necessarily need for my build, but it's like, you know, suppression, fizz damage reduction, resistance, chaos resistance. If I hit one of those, it's valuable, so I could, you know, sell it and go again. That was the idea. It worked out, so I fractured a prefix, and then just essence spam until one of the mods, Exalt, Annul, nothing complicated about the suffixes. And then once you have the suffixes, it's also not complicated. It's just you Exalt, Eldritch Exalt, Annul. Well, normal Exalt is fine. Eldritch Annul, blocking life, I believe. The first tier 1 to hit is 1 in 11, and then the second one is 1 in 29, or 1 in 27, depends on which one you hit first. I hit it in one. I hit the second in 31 slams after slamming the first one. So I got a little bit unlucky, but not that unlucky. Not like I got unlucky on the gloves. Let's not talk about those. But yeah, this is the juice. It gives more AoE, more ward, more everything. Then I had to spend 101 divines to divine this. And if we check, like, the rolls, like, the ranges are crazy. So it goes from 301, 75. So it's basically 75 times 75 times 30. 16,175 divines on average to hit a perfect roll. I think I settle on 369, 369, 42. That's probably as close as it gets to perfection for me. Because I don't think this is worth mirroring, right? I mean, it's not, because you can make it for so much less. Like, this the total cost for this, for me, with losing one of the bases, was like around 250 divines. So definitely not worth a mirror. But if you want to avoid the whole hassle of crafting, I guess technically, yeah, it is worth mirroring. Well, it still needs better implicits then, better divine ideally, but I don't make 16,000 divines in a league, so I'm not probably capable of divining that. But yeah, that's the body armor. And then the last point that we need to cover is enhance. Enhance in Blade Blast of Unloading setup. So the main thing is castle damage taken, Blade Blast of Unloading. The next thing is to get it to do damage, and the best node, or the best support is Empower, level 4. And then the best thing for the last socket is Enhance. So I was a bit hesitant. I was thinking, well, we have good AoE already, you know, so now we just need to focus on doing enough damage so that that Blade Blast AoE that we have, it's actually killing stuff. But then my chat was saying, like, well, come on, show us. Just show us the enhance. Show us how big it gets. Because Blade Blast of Unloading scales with quality. Like, every quality gives you 1% more area effect per Blade Blast, or Blade Vortex, Blade detonated. So the last one gets a lot, right? It's 124% total more area per blade. So the last blade, the last expansion is 1.5 screens at the moment. And you can push it further. You can go for Awaken level 5 enhance. You can get AoE on the weapons corruptions, but then you're losing damage unless you get elemental penetration with AoE. But then we're talking about some crazy RNG, crazy money investment. You can craft the ring. I hit rarity when I recrafted my ring into resistance, and I kept it. But technically, yeah. So this is either rarity, or you get energy shield, spell damage from Crusader Slam, or you go for Warlord Slam, and there's a small chance that you can hit AoE on the prefix. Every single other stat that you can slam there is dead, it's useless, but the AoE, you know, it would be nice we get more AoE on the Blade Blast. And yeah, that's about it. That's the upgrades, the updates. buffs, nerfs, changes, stuff, things. Build is, I don't know if I said it already, but it just, after these upgrades, all the AoE and everything, every map is just like, it makes me happy, okay? It makes me happy playing this build. That's all I'm gonna say. I spent a lot. At this point, it's probably over a mirror. Mirrors are like 800 divines. So, yeah, it's gonna be... Well, I didn't buy everything at the current prices. My value of the build is a mirror plus, yeah, but I didn't spend the mirror plus on the gear because I got it before it was so expensive, you know. Bye. Great ending. Amazing ending.